Have you ever had a requirement to send a JSON response or an array from Power Automate Flow to the Power Apps? If the answer is yes, then stay tuned. In this video, I will show you how you can send a JSON response or an array from Power Automate to Power Apps without using any premium connector. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Deepak Srivastav. Thanks for subscribing and thanks for watching my videos. In today's video, we're going to see how you can use a very simple approach to send a JSON response that you may be receiving from an API or from a custom connector or any array response directly to the Power App. And to understand the scenario, let me walk you through with an use case. This is the use case that I'm using to walk you through. You can apply the same method for any of the use case that you may have. Okay, so what the use case that we're going to use today, I'm going to try to create an app, or I want to create an app that should connect to my SharePoint and give me all the groups, SharePoint groups, not the M365 security group, the SharePoint group, and I should be able to see all the users inside those groups. Right? So I'm going to just show you the query part of it. If you want to extend this app and also add some operations where you can add a user to a particular group or create a new group, that also very easily possible. And if you like to see that extension, leave the comment. I will create another video to create those operations as well. But this video is all about querying the response that is an array. Okay, so the first thing that we need to know how we can query all the group from the SharePoint. Okay, so for that, I'm going to use the SharePoint API, and the API is pretty simple, and I'm going to show you that API. And the API is, this is my SharePoint URL, so you can copy the URL that you have, _API web site groups. What this API does, it's going to query your SharePoint and give you all the SharePoint groups that you have. And the second API that we need is to query all the users from the given group. Okay, so that API is also very straightforward. Okay, so this is the API. Again, this is my URL of the SharePoint _API web site groups. And now what we are doing, we are saying get by ID. So we are saying, okay, give me the group, and we need to pass the ID and then all the users for that. Very simple, straightforward API. The challenge with those API that yes, those are very simple, but we don't have a very simple and easy way to call these API from the Power Apps itself. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start creating the app, and then we're going to call a flow from that app, call these API, get the response that we are getting, convert that response in a way that we can easily pass that response from flow to the app. So let's log into the make.powerapps.com. and we're going to create a simple app. Okay, so I created my app. So the app is empty right now. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually insert a gallery. Okay, this is my first gallery that will show me all the groups. Align it here, and we just need the title because that's the only thing I'm going to show, the name of the group. Add one label here. Okay, so I added these two labels here, SharePoint groups and the users, and I'm going to drop another gallery also for the users. Okay, and let's drag it here so it will align. And in this case, I'm gonna say title and subtitle because what I'm gonna show the name of the user and the email address. And for this gallery, the user gallery, I don't need the separator, and I also don't need the next arrow. Okay, so our basic structure is ready. Now we need to connect and query. Okay, so the first thing that I'm gonna do, of course, you don't forget to save it. Now from here, on the left navigation, you see this is the small icon for Power Automate. Click there, and we are going to create a new flow. Okay, this is the flow that's going to help us running those API that we had and sending the response back to this Power App. Click on create new flow. Okay, I'm going to create from blank. Okay, and this is the cool, right? It's going to open the Power Automate inside the Power App experience. So pretty cool. First thing that I would generally do, I'll rename so that I can give a good name Okay, so the name of my flow, I'm keeping cat user groups. Now, as you notice, from our app, we are calling this flow, and I don't want to create multiple flows. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one flow, and then from Power Apps, I want to pass whether I need all the groups or I need all the users for a given group. So what I want, that when I'm calling this flow from my app, I need to pass the request type, whether I want groups or I want users. So for generally what you should do, add a compose, and before making any change, rename it and call it request type or whatever name you want it to give. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this input and ask in Power App. This ask in Power Apps is nothing but you are adding these parameter to your flow. So when Power App is going to call these flow, the user or the app has to pass those parameter values. Okay, click on ask in Power App. And the reason now you understand why I ask you to change, because if you don't change the name of the action, the parameter name will be created with the name. So if I have compose, it's going to be compose underscore input. And when you are using this flow in Power App, you don't know what I need to pass. So it's better, a good practice to change the action name before you do ask in Power App. So that's the one thing. The second information that I want, if I want to get all the users for a given group, I need to pass the group ID. If you remember the API, you need to pass the ID to get all the users, right? So I'm going to do the same approach again, compose, rename it, okay, and then ask in Power App. Perfect. So we created two variables or two parameters that we need to pass when we are going to call this flow. Now let's use these parameters. So the first thing that we're going to check the request type, whether the request is for all the groups or request is for all the users. So I'm going to add a condition and then output of this request type. And if this is equal to groups, so if my request type is equal to groups, then I'm going to do what? I'm going to use SharePoint API action. So send an HTTP request to SharePoint. Okay, site address, this is my SharePoint site. Method is going to be the get, and the URI is the same what I have shown you. The URI is underscore API web site groups. Okay, this will give me all the groups. Similarly, if I go to the right hand side, I'm going to do the same thing. SharePoint, send an HTTP request. Again, my site address, method is going to be the get, and the API, as you know, this one. The only thing we want to change here, you see I have hard-coded 3. You don't want to do that. Instead, I'm going to use this group ID, the one that I'm getting from the Power App. Okay, click save. Now if you go to flow.microsoft.com or makeyourpowerautomate.com, you will come here. Here, if you go to my flow, you should be able to see the flow that you just created. So this is here, get user group. And now you can edit the flow from here. So you don't need to go to the Power App and click edit. You can do that as well. So far we are just making the request. We have not made any change. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to test this real quickly because I like to show you the response that we get from these API, because this is the first thing that you need to understand when you are passing or sending the array or JSON response from Power Automate to Power App. You have to understand or know the response that you are getting, because that will help you to convert that response to another array that you can send to the Power App. Okay, so to that, let me run it. It's going to ask me those parameters. Okay, so here I'm going to just say groups. First we will check the group, and then later we will check the users also. So as you can see, the flow got completed successfully, and it should go here. So as you can see, and now if you look at the response, starting with the results, so that's the typical structure of the SharePoint API response. And then if you look after this, I'm getting the response here for each group. So this is ID 5. The group name is communication site members. That's the first group. And then if I keep going down, I will see other group, like this is the second group, site owners. And if I keep going, site visitors. So now you can see how I'm getting the response. And just to give you better understanding of the response, I copied the response into my VS Code. Okay, so this is the response, as you can see here, D results. And then after that, you have these different array element for each of the group, right? I want to make another array. And why I'm making that another array? Because if you look at the response that you are getting from these SharePoint API, it's very complex, and this can happen with any of your API that you are using or custom connector that you are using. The response may be more complex. So what you need to do, the first thing, you need to make this response simpler and only include the column that you actually practically going to need in your app. Because most of the time we don't really going to use all the columns or information that we are getting from the API. We generally use only few. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use another action called select. Okay, so under data operation you can find the select, and what select can do, it can create an array based on another array. Okay, so in here in the from, this is my response that I'm getting from this send an HTTP request to SharePoint. But if I use the body is this entire thing, right? So this is not an array, the entire body is not array. So what you need to do, you need to go till the end results. That's after that your repeated element will start. The same thing you can apply to your API response that you're planning to work. You need to go to the point where you can have those repetitive information coming from your API. Okay, so in our case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this body that we have clicked, go to the expression, paste it. Okay, remove the curly bracket from the front and the end. Okay, so you can see the body and then action name. If you rename the action, you need to change this as well. Then I'm going to do question mark, bracket, single quote, D, if you remember, question mark, bracket, single quote, results. Okay, so what we are saying, this is my array response that I'm getting. Okay, that's done. Now the second part, that is map. So what map is saying, on the first column here, you can give the name that you want in your new array, and the value you need to pick from the response that you are getting. Okay, so in here, what I want to pass, the first thing that I want to pass the ID. So that this is going to be the group ID, and how you will get the ID. If you look at the response, I'm getting ID in this field, ID, right? So I need to read this information. Now, because we are using this already, the read results, this is my item, and I need the ID. Okay, very simple. Go here in the value, go to the expression. I'm going to say item, so whichever item I am on, ID. Okay, so this is how you will map the response that you are getting in your API to the new array that you are creating. I also need the title. It's going to be the very same. I'll go to the value, expression, and then instead of ID, this is my title, because this is the title, is the name of the column. Okay. Okay. Now, if I want more information to pass on to my app, I can absolutely do that. For example, if I want to pass, let's say, any of this information, owner title, who is the owner of the group, description, if there is any, and any other information that you can see, right? You can pass, let's, for example, description. So let's say I also want to pass the description. We'll go to the value, expression, paste it. Okay. Now, you need to remember one thing. If I'm going to use the description and pass like this, right? This is the first thing that you need to remember if you are using this method. The array that you are creating, the new array that we will pass to the Power App, none of these columns should have a null value, because if any of these columns will have a null, then your app will not understand the response. So what you need to do in that case, if you don't know that which column or which field is going to have the null, you need to apply the method that I'm going to show just now to every field that you're going to create here. Or if you know that some of the column or field will always have the information, then you can use like I'm using for ID and title, because we know that ID and title cannot be empty for the SharePoint group. Description maybe. So what you need to do in the description, I need to check for if this is empty. Empty means null. Okay, so I'm going to say if empty, this is another function. Okay, so if this is empty, okay, that means it's true, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to just pass this double single quotes. Okay, so that way it will pass as an empty string rather as a null. And if it is not empty, then you can easily pass whatever value it has. Okay, and close it. Okay, so very simple if statement. If you want to use a particular field and you are not sure that if that field will be empty or not, use this if statement. That will make sure that it will work all the time. Perfect. Let me save it. Okay, so this part is done. The next, what we need to do, we need to now send it back to the Power App. So I'm going to search for Power App. Okay, and in the Power App, there is an action called respond to a Power App or flow. Select that. Click on add output. And as you can see here right now, these are the only type that you can send it back to the Power Automate. And as you can see here, the array or JSON is not listed here today. In the future, I hope that the Power Automate will have that capability and functionality to send array directly from here to there. But because it's not there right now, we're going to utilize the text type. So select the text, give a name of your response, and in the value, you actually need to pass whatever output that you are getting from the select. And how you would do that, go to the expression, and I'm going to use the body. Okay, so body, as you can see here, you need to pass the body and then action name. Our action name here is select. Okay, I can rename also this one so it's easy to understand. Okay, I renamed it for SP group, and I go to the respond expression body, and here I'm going to just type the name of my action, that is SP group. So single quote SPGRO. Okay, save it. So now we have done this half part. Now let's go back to the Power App. And again, if you go to the Power Automate here, in these three dots, I can refresh. Okay, so it will get the latest changes that we have done. Now what we need to do, whenever this app load, I want to make that query to get all the group. And how I would do that, if I go to the app, select the app on start. So whenever the app is going to start, I'm going to make that query. Okay, and what I'm going to do on start, we need to call that flow that we just created. And not only that, we need to call that flow and the response. You remember we are sending that response from our custom array that we created. We need to assign that response to a particular collection so that we can use it. So I'm going to start with set. This is how you create the variable. Okay, so this is the name of my variable. And now what you need to do is start typing the first initial of the flow that you have created, and it will automatically show you. So the name of the flow that we have is get user groups. Okay, so I'm going to say get, and you see here get user groups dot run. Once you select that, look at the top. It is saying that you need to pass the request type and also the group ID, because these are the two parameters that we have created. So our request type is, because we need all the groups, and I'm going to pass nothing into the group ID because this request is for group. When we made the user call, we will pass the ID here. Close it, dot response. Okay, and we're going to close the bracket. So what we have done, we are calling that flow that we have wrote, and whatever response that we're going to get, we're going to assign to this variable. Okay, and just to test what we are getting here, I will go to the app, click on these three dots, run on start. This should trigger my flow. And if you go back to flow, it does, as you can see here 5 seconds ago. And if I go back to my app and look at the response, and as you can see here, so I'm getting the response. Now this is where the trick starts. And let me first show you the response, or how the response is coming in and what we need to do to make it work. Okay, so this is how the response is coming in. It's coming as in string, but it has all the information that we want. So ID, the title. So somehow we need to convert this string to an array in the Power Apps. Now this is where the where the challenge is, right? Because we don't have a direct array JSON request response between Power App and Flow. We can only pass information as a string. Okay, so to convert this string to an array, I'm going to use another function. There is a function called match all. Okay, and match all function is nothing but what it does. It matches the string that you are receiving and give you a matched response in an array format. So to start with, I'm going to use the clear collect because I want to collect that response that I'm getting after my match all to an object again. Okay, and then the function is match all, as you can see here, match all. Now it is saying, okay, match all, then in which text? Okay, so text is nothing but that you see the response that we are getting, because we are getting response in a text format. Then there is something called regular expression. The regular expression is nothing but it is asking me how the response that you are getting in text is looking like, or from where I need to get the information. Okay, so I copied the response, this variable response text that we are getting, into this file, so I can easily walk you through and read it through. And as you notice, this is how we are sending the response. And if you notice here, it looks like an array already, but because we are sending it as a string or as a text, the Power App is not able to understand. So our pattern or regular expression, so it's going to be like this. Now let me walk you through and how easy it is to maintain and change. It looks like a little trickier, but it's not that trickier. So you will always start with double quotes, and then you will have these brackets here. Okay, and then if you notice these, the first part here on each of there, so you have the ID, that's your first column, title, that is your second column, description, that is your third column. You can keep adding as many columns as you want, or you are sending from your Power Automate flow, but they have to be in the sequence how they are structured. So I cannot put title before ID, because ID is my first column. It has to start with ID. So my column name, and then double quotes. So double quotes, ID, the name of the column, and then close both the double quotes, colon, this is not going to change. Then you will have a bracket, question mark, again the name of the column. This is how the information is coming, right? But you are having this greater than or smaller than icon here. Then you have the parenthesis, caret sign, double quotes, caret sign, close, star, and then you close your bracket. Okay, so this is till here is your structure for any column. Now there is a couple of things you've noticed. If your response that you're getting is a type integer, then you don't need to have this inside the double quotes like you have for title. Okay, so if it is a text column, then you need to close it inside these double quotes. If it is a number column, then you just need to have this structure. Everything is going to remain the same. The only thing will change the name of the column that you are using. Okay, so this is done. So now I should be getting all my formatted result in this obj result table. Okay, let's try to run it again. So I'm going to go to the three dot and click on run and start to see whether this part is working or not. And as you can see here, right? So now if you notice, I'm getting the ID. This is what I asked for. I'm also getting the title, and also the description should be there. Now as you can see here, we converted that text string that we're getting to the well-formatted table. I can use that table as the source for my gallery. So instead of custom, I'm going to say obj results. Okay, and in this one, I'm going to use the title. And as you can see, if I go to this item dot description, ID, title, all the columns that I have already showing up here. I'm going to say title, and here you go. All of my SharePoint groups are listed here. Pretty straightforward, right? The group ready. Now we need to fill this one. So what we need to do, we need to on click of this icon, we need to call the same flow again, but this time what we need to do, we need to pass the request a little differently so we can get the users back. Okay, so on select, the method is same. I'm going to create another variable. So this time users, and then get user group dot run. This time request type is users. And this is where the trick is, right? So I'm going to pass this item.id. So this is where I'm passing the group ID where I'm making this click. Okay, so this is going to give me the response back. Before I move forward, let's go back to the flow and complete the second part, right? So let's go to the flow and we need to complete this part as well. Okay, so I'll go to the condition, and here, very same thing, I'm going to add another select because I want to convert the response to my format. And this time I'm going to rename this to users because this is the users. From, the response from this is also going to be the very similar what we get here. It's just the data is going to change. So I'm going to do the same thing again. Go here, select the body, right? Copy it, go to the expression, paste it back, remove the curly from front and end, and then go all the way to the end. Question mark D, question mark results. Okay, and again, this part may change from your API or your response. You need to make sure that you are picking the right response. Okay, and then what I'm going to pass here, or the map, the ID, as you know already. So I'm going to say item ID. This is my user ID actually. Okay, and the title. So this is the name or the display name if you say. And then email. Okay, so I am sending the ID of the user display name that comes in the title, and the email for that user. Okay, and same thing, we need to respond back to the Power App. So response, and response is going to be the output of this select or the users. So go to the expression, body, and then I'm going to just type the name of my action. Click OK, save. So your flow is ready now. Based on the request, it's going to either send you all the groups or it's going to send you all the users. Let's come back here. I will go to the flow, refresh it, so it will get all the latest and greatest. Okay, and on click of this button, and that's what we are doing. I'm going to copy this entire thing because this is what we're going to reuse. I'll go here and then paste. Okay, and I'm going to change the name of my collection. So obj user results. This is what the variable users, right? And then you can quickly look here your array. So you are saying ID, title, and email, right? So ID is ID, title is title. Instead of description, I'm going to just change the name here, and this is how easy it is to change. Okay, so if you notice how quickly I mapped my new column with new response, right? Because this was the new response that I'm getting. It's now user information, and that's what the cool thing about it. Once you have it once done, you can reuse for any other response. Okay, so if you notice I'm getting an error, the reason, if you have noticed so far, I have not actually passed the response yet. So dot response, I have to do that to get the response. Okay, now I'm going to run the app. Click here. It should make the call to my Power Automate flow and then change it. Okay, so go here, open it, and if you look at the user results, here you go. I'm getting all the users. So now the only thing that I need to do, this gallery, I need to map the right response. So obj user result, and then this is the title, this item dot title, and then this item dot email, because this is what I wanted to show. Awesome. Now if I run the app, I can go to any of these different group and I can see the different users that has been added. Pretty cool, right? Okay. So far we created this functional app where you can query all the groups and all the users. Yeah, so that's it for today. I hope this will help you in your app where you have a requirement to get array or JSON object from Power Automate Flow to your Power App. And also don't forget to leave me a comment if you like to see this app more functional, where I can create a user, create a group, remove a user, remove or delete a group from the Power App. I would definitely love to create that, extend this app and show you guys how to do it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much.